Matters arising from the Presidential Election Tribunal Judgment as Atiku and PDP heads to Supreme Court calls the judgment a subversion of justice. On the other hand, APC hailed the judgment, congratulates Nigerians and Buhari. Also, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike congratulated Buhari, saying it came from the heart, unlike others that goes to see the president at night. I am your host on Spectacle today, Daniel Atai, and with me in the studio to analyze matters arising from the Presidential Electoral Tribunal judgment is Comrade Silvanus Okpe, and also we will be having a live chat with an esquire, a constitutional lawyer, in the person of Joseph Agu from Enugu State. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon. Welcome back. Before we delve into that, let's look at the judgment, the judges that took time to deliberate on the tribunal case for months, and some of the rulings as well. The names of the judges that delivered the Presidential Tribunal judgment on the 11th September 2019 are 1. Justice Mohammed Garba. Justice Mohammed Garba heads the panel of the Electoral Tribunal case. We also have Justice Abdul Aboki from the Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal, and we have Justice Joseph Ikieg from the Benin Division of the Court of Appeal. We have Justice Samuel Oseji from Lagos Division of the Court of Appeal, and we have Justice Peter Ige from Abuja Division of the Court of Appeal. These were the 5 judges that actually delivered the Presidential Election Tribunal judgment on the 11th. Now, we'll take a brief look at the judgment delivered on that very day as ruled by these judges. Tribunal rules that there is no evidence that INEC transmitted election result electronically to any server. That is one of the ruling. Second of the ruling, that the rule that is that they strike out the APC argument that Atiku is not qualified to contest because he is not a Nigerian by birth. You can have your say whether Atiku is still a Nigerian. The court have just said Atiku is a Nigerian by birth. Tribunal also struck out Atiku's application on Buhari's education qualifications. You know, that has been on the trend that Mr. President do not have a certificate, secondary school certificate presented to INEC. And you can have your say on that, whether the judgment of the tribunal stands or not, or one of the reasons why the PDP is heading to court. Tribunal dismisses also Atiku's application on vote buying. Remember, Osebanjo was accused of inducing market women with trade money. The tribunal clearly interprets that it does not have jurisdiction over that suit. Also, that the VP was never joined in the suit. Again, we have the tribunal dismissing Buhari's application that Atiku was not qualified to file the petition himself. They struck that judgment out. Again, the tribunal also struck out Atiku's applications on police and military interference and harassment and intimidation, and for a reason that the tribunal said that they struck out for non-joinder of the parties who have been accused, meaning that PDP and Atiku should have joined the police and the military in the suit. The tribunal also struck out INEC's request to dismiss Atiku's prayer seeking Buhari's disqualification. This is where I think, as an analyst, that the PDP could use in their pursuit of justice at the Supreme Court. Again, INEC's motion on Atiku's lead counsel, Levi Uzoku, was also dismissed because they filed that it was not called to the Nigerian bar, hence it's not qualified, to be a lawyer standing before the tribunal cases. Tribunal again dismissed INEC motion asking Vice President Osinbajo to be joined in the petition. Several injunctions were actually showcased on the day of the judgment that the VP was not joined in the suit against the APC and President Muhammadu Buhari. So the lines are open and they are showing directly on your screen. You can reach us, follow us on our live stream, follow us on via a call and text via the lines displayed on your screen, and as well, you can reach us on WhatsApp. And like I said, we are having Joseph Agu directly from Enugu State. He will be calling. Agu is a constitutional lawyer, and he will be giving us his take on this particular subject and topic, matters arising from the judgment. But like I earlier introduced, Silvanus Okpe is with me in the studio. Silvanus is the spokesperson of the Patriotic Nigerian Youth Against Corruption. Welcome to Spectacle once again.
Thank you very much.
Now, the judgments have been delivered, and you've seen the introduction. And what is your take? Let's take it one by one, starting from the disqualification, the seek that Atiku and PDP asked the tribunal that Mr. President is not qualified because he submitted a false claim to the INEC. The ruling was clearly by the tribunal that Mr. President is 100% qualified, having led this country, ruled this country as a military head of state, and that he is qualified, completely qualified. So, what is your take on that?
Before I proceed to comment on whether or not I agree with the judgment of the Mohammed Garba-led Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, I want to assure Nigerians that I am coming from an unbiased angle. Okay. My commentary will be my own little contribution as a Nigerian who is interested in the growth of our legal and political processes. So I will say that in as much as I will applaud the members of the tribunal for the tedious work delivering the judgment for 9 hours, it was thorough. They gave grounds for most of their judgment. There was a ratio decidendi and an obiter dictum clearly rendered. Okay. The judgments were backed up by judicial precedents and constitutional provisions. But there are some areas I do not, as a lawyer, agree with the justices who sat in that deliberation. For instance,
some of your lawyers were there, senior advocates were also there, and we saw that even while delivering the judgment, some of them were even sleeping. So you said you have a contrary view, so go ahead.
For instance, the issue of disqualification. Yeah. I'm not satisfied with the reasons the tribunal gave in dismissing the claims of the PDP that President Muhammadu Buhari does not possess a WAEC certificate. Why do I say so? the tribunal construed the proviso in the constitutional provision which they used, that the proviso, it provided that the president must possess school, at least the school leaving certificate or its equivalent. They construed or they interpreted or its equivalent sui generis to mean that the president, having occupied the highest political office in Nigeria, is assumed to have qualified. You understand?
I understand.
Which means the paper qualification which the provision envisaged, which the makers of the provision envisaged, has been put out of use. Thereby adopting a relaxed measure that what it means is that by mere virtue of being a presenter on TVN, you are qualified. You have a degree that is sui generis to people who practices presenters on television station, which is a bad precedent for our nation. Though,
no, but what the tribunal, I think what they taught and presented that day was that he have served as a commander-in-chief, and that he submitted his WAEC and whatever paper to the military, and the military never denied it. There was an affidavit to that effect, and the military attested to it that yes, it was so, but it's missing. So, and the WAEC also have come to reissue him another certificate and result, also from the Cambridge University, London. And so what is the PDP still looking for? The
problem of PDP is that the Constitution says you must qualify to stand for the election. At the time he was standing for the election, did he present these documents to show that he was qualified? This WAEC document came later during the...
Don't forget the intrigues of setup, and also anything could happen. The files were kept with the military, like he said, that they submitted everything. And
you are making a case for the tribunal, with respect. What the tribunal said was that the president, having served as a head of state in Nigeria, has automatically obtained an equivalent of the school leaving certificate, which qualified him to stand for that election.
Okay.
Which I do not find comfortable. Again, with respect, I do not agree. I do not agree with the judgment of the tribunal on the point that certified true copies of documents must perforce be tendered by the makers of that document before it can be admissible. What it means is that a certified true copy from INEC must be tendered by INEC before our courts can adopt them. Do you expect INEC to tender a document that indicts them?
No.
It's not possible. And that was why the Court of Appeal, in a case, in Salami vs. Saidu case, pronounced that a certified true copies of documents can be tendered before the court by a witness or anybody it is issued to. Okay. And the tribunal did not also have recourse to section 98 subsection 1 paragraph B of the Evidence Act 2011, which rubbished the provision of section 83 sub 1 of the Evidence Act, which made a presentation of a certified true copy of document by the makers as a condition precedent to its admissibility. Section 52 also provided that certified true copies of documents or books or records are admissible. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And what the combined reading of these sections and other judicial precedents, what it means is that that's the particular the basis for the disqualification of the president was not well looked into. The issue of INEC server the evidence presented by the PDP was not admissible because in the opinion of the tribunal, it was not tendered by the makers of the documents, which is INEC. INEC is defending the president that the election they conducted is good. So there is no way we expect INEC to come and tender a document that will indict the president or rubbish.
When you are talking about INEC saying that they did not transmit, I mean a PDP accusing INEC and the APC that election ought to be transmitted or they have evidence in the server. The tribunal clearly gave the judgment that INEC never transmitted the election via any server or have any evidence.
The judgment of the tribunal was hinged on the fact that the documents presented by PDP was rendered inadmissible because they were not tendered by the makers of the document. And if we insist on that precedence, that every evidence arising from our election petitions must be tendered by the makers of the documents, then it will be defeated. Because there is no way INEC will, on their own, tender a document that will indict them. And even the people who made INEC, who created INEC sites and all these people, who are they? Do we know them? If we say that it must be from the makers of this
all right, I think we have Barrister Joseph Agu Esquire live now from Anambra State to talk to us about this particular judgment from the Electoral Tribunal, Presidential Electoral Tribunal verdict. Mr. Joseph Agu.
Yes, sir. How are you, sir?
Good day, sir.
Good day. How are you?
You are live on Spectacle program on television Nigerian.
Oh, that's wonderful.
What is your take? I want you to give us your side of the story as regard as a constitutional lawyer.
Yes.
The judgment, the 9 judgment, given, I believe you watched the proceeding on the 11th of September, how the verdict were given. Could you say that the tribunal was okay? The judgment was okay?
Okay. Let me start by, thanking your lordships of the Court of Appeal for a well-considered judgment, very painstaking, well articulated, meticulous, and well delivered.
Okay.
Don't forget that judgment took up to almost 9 hours, 8.5 hours.
Yes.
It is to show you how meticulous the justice of the Court of Appeal were in delivering that judgment.
Okay.
Yes. It was a well-considered judgment, well-deserved.
You mean it was well-deserved?
Well-deserved in the sense that from the beginning, from the onset of the petition itself,
yes.
If you look at the petition, you will see that the petition died on arrival. Even before they filed the petition in court, the petition was already there because they filed a petition and started looking for evidence to back up, to support their petition. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Court of law is not a place of sentiment. It's not a place where we look at your emotion. It's not a place where we look at what you feel. It's not what you feel. It is what the law says. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the petitioners, they fell right from the beginning. They fell, with all due respect, they failed to do what they ought to do before going to tribunal for that very petition.
All right. Okay, good. On the issue of Mr. President's qualification that the tribunal threw out, do you have anything to say about that? Is Mr. President qualified? Does he have YX certificates? As
very well. Very well. Okay. That is the initial point I made.
Okay.
That they filed a petition and started looking for evidence to support it. I mean, that area, that issue of certificates is, in fact, is unfortunate. It's unfortunate just to be mad. It is unfortunate for the petitioners to talk about qualification of Mr. President, citing WAEC certificate. You see, the WAEC itself have come to say that this man has our certificate, and it was not forged, it was not fake.
Okay.
So the matter died there. The matter died there. Right. And like we keep on saying, it is wrong for you to present Mr. President as not having the basic qualifications to be the president of Nigeria. We're talking about a man who is a general in the army. It's an insult. It's an insult to the sensibility of Nigerians and international community to claim or to allege that Mr. President does not have WAEC certificate. It is wrong. It is wrong, Segena. Even if he doesn't have it, you shouldn't make it issue of litigation. You could see other ways of, going around it. But thank God, everything has come to an end because the tribunal says not only that he is qualified, but he is eminently qualified. That even the petitioners, their own evidence supports his qualifications.
Yes.
Like the president doesn't even need to show I have WAEC certificate because even the petitioners, the evidence they put before the court shows that he has it. Yes. So that matter ends there. It's a well considered ruling on that issue. Because if you look at even how the tribunal came about that judgment, you look at the first issue INEC raised against the petitioners that the petition was incompetent because the lawyer who signed the petition was not the same person as the person who was called to that. But the evidence showed that it was one and the same person. So there's no contradiction at all. So once you can show that this is one and the same person and no other contradiction, that's the end of the matter.
Okay, that's good. And now, you are still there?
Yes, I'm there.
Now, this particular judgment from the tribunal, has it set any new precedents in terms of anybody aspiring for political office could swear an affidavit and then submit to the INEC without evidence of photocopies of paper qualifications or certifications? Has it set a new precedent?
Well, that is wrong assumption. The tribunal has not set a new precedent that once you swear an affidavit, you are good to go. If you say is the president of the court, then go and do it tomorrow and see if you can go through. Okay. You can't get through. The judgment is saying that the law does not even require you to attach any certificate.
Okay.
That's what the law says. Okay. And that was what the tribunal rightly interpreted. Okay. You understand? So they never said say if you swear any affidavit that it suffices. It suffices. No. The tribunal is saying that the law never mandated you or never mandates you to attach your qualification. That you have this is enough, and that is what the law says. Very simple and short. I have this. Then if you have evidence that this person does not have what he said he has, then you bring the evidence and disqualify the person.
All right.
Through the process of court.
All right. Could that be the reason PDP is heading to court, to the Supreme Court?
Yes, I wish them well in the Supreme Court because I am happy they went to court because of this issue, and so that our election position will be enriched, that our democracy will be enhanced, so that we have precedent, we have cases we cite when we are dealing in election matters. You understand?
Yes.
So if they go to Supreme Court, I'm sure that the Supreme Court will not deviate from what the Court of Appeal has ruled, because the Court of Appeal, the Justice of Court of Appeal were so meticulous, so candid, that their pronouncements were candid and direct. So if they go to Supreme Court, it's good so that we have precedent that this matter ended up in Supreme Court. So I want them to be there so that the Supreme Court will nail the whole process.
Okay, barrister, sir.
Yes,
on the last note, do you think this incessant and painstaking, lingering judgment is distraction to governance, to Mr. President?
Yes, it is. Very well, it is. It is. It is because even though the president, as he said, he was not the top all the while, which some of us were not the top because we know the judgment, the petition lacks merit from onset. But if we're able to get to a point where the court has ruled on all the issues of election petition, we can forge ahead. The president will now concentrate and take the Nigerian people to the next level, which he has promised.
All right.
So as soon as we get over this at the Supreme Court, better for us as a nation.
Thank you very much for your wonderful contribution.
Thank you. I'm happy to deal with you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Barrister Joseph Ago from Enugu State. You heard him. I think we'll go on a quick break, and then we'll use the next 10 minutes to, you can have your say. Please stay tuned.
A slice of the north-central Nigeria with its raw mix of cultures, treasures, and amazing people. Based in the vibrant glory of the beauty of nature with striking landscapes. And that's the best from agriculture, commerce and entrepreneurship. Put in a mix of local politics and governance from a resourceful people with amazing lifestyles, and you are right in the center of the northern Nigeria. North Central Journal, a compendium of people, places, news and views, all in an amazing mix that bears it all. Only on Television Nigerian.
Thanks for staying tuned. We are still live on the program, the Electoral Petition Tribunal Verdict from the Presidential Tribunal. Mr. Sivanos, you heard your fellow Esquire, Joseph Ago from Enugu State, saying that the judgment was explicit and it was accurately verdicted, and it will stand the test of time.
Well, I would want to thank my learned colleague and brother on the wonderful contribution. With respect, I want to humbly disagree with him on the point that the tribunal, there was no case of non-qualification in the first place. Okay. If according to him, the president is qualified and he has WAEC certificate, there was no need for any case against his qualification to have arisen in the first place.
Don't forget that Wiki have congratulated the president.
Yes, but we are dealing with the legal facts.
Okay.
Why did the tribunal use a sui generis means a method of interpretation to make the president qualify, to qualify the president for the election?
Can you explain that?
What I mean by sui generis is that what the Constitution provides is that for you to contest for the office of the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you must possess a school leaving certificate or its equivalent. Because President Muhammad Buhari might not or does not currently have the certificate, they used the proviso or its equivalent to interpret his occupying the position in the past as occupying the position of the President of the Federal Republic in the past as having qualified him to contest for the election.
All right. Having said all that, we're heading to court. The PDP is heading to the Supreme Court, and I will still believe that the Apex Court will do justice to what the appeal court, the appellant court have discussed already. And like Joseph Ago said, you can have this type of senior advocates, judges, 9 hours judgment explicitly explained, and then they have a kind of lesson they work for the Supreme Court. Do you think
they have not?
Correct?
It will start on a good note. I think they have. There are Mike Ezekom, a constitutional lawyer and a member of the petitioners' legal team, has said that they are dissatisfied and that they will appeal. For me, as a lawyer, I see that there are grounds for appeal.
Okay.
There are grounds. There are porous lacunas that must be filled by the Supreme Court. We want the Supreme Court to lay this legal question to rest. We
saw Oshomole and Sekondo, embracing each other that very day, and does it?
That is politics of civility.
Okay, they not only embraced each other. Oshomole also told them that they should not bother to go to Supreme Court. Just like Lai Mohammed also said that if we go to Supreme Court, they will still defeat him. Oshomole embraced Sekondo, and Wike congratulated Buhari.
I think it's high time they backed down on this, but for the love of deepening our jurisprudence.
You remember what Wike said? Do you have anything to say about what Wike emphatically said, that it came from his heart?
I think there is a crack within the PDP, which urgent steps should be taken.
That some governors go behind. So is it about partisan
it's about
politics? It's about interest.
The House of Representatives minority leadership position, which Wike's favorite candidate did not clinch, is still a problem. And I know that PDP as a party will so come together to lay all these squabbles to rest in the interest of the party and Nigeria, because Nigeria expects them to play the role of a good opposition, so that our democracy will continue thriving.
Now, looking at the entire judiciary in Nigeria, do you have anything to say, especially when it comes to electoral cases?
We are always being surprised when it comes to electoral cases. What we expect from the from the points of law are not the conclusion. Like the Osun State governorship election, which the Supreme Court ruled on the grounds of technicality without any iota of consideration to the substance of the case. It is a thing of worry, because most times these people will rig election and hide at the back of technicality to legalize rigging through our court processes. And I think the judges must do a lot to adopt activism instead of their passive nature in the judiciary, because they are co-partners in the development of this country and our polity.
So what do you mean by legal technicalities?
Legal technicalities are procedures. They are procedures.
Instead of the actual
things that must be done before a case can be adjudicated in a court. Like when a court does not have a jurisdiction to try a case, we saw the petitioner, the respondents, especially Buhari and INEC, trying to bring technicality into the case to throw out the petition of Atiku Abubakar and the PDP. That was the first half. The tribunal ruled that Atiku and the PDP were qualified to have brought the case before them and threw out the technicality.
All right, let's have the take of this young man, Kenneth. He was calling since and refused to. Kenneth, you are live on Spectacle. After this call, we round up. So have your say. You read on the screen already. You know what we are discussing. Matters arising from the tribunal verdict.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go straight to your point. You just have 1 minute.
All right. The tribunal judgment. Honestly, I'm not happy with the judgment at all. Because what is going on? You with an affidavit, does that mean that even me, example, now if I don't go to school with an affidavit, will I be fit to contest for any electoral position in this country?
But that is not what the tribunal ruled.
But it's part of it.
The tribunal.
The case brought by the PDP, by the opposition.
Okay, were you listening to Barrister Agu just now on his analysis?
No, I didn't listen because I tried to watch here. It's not working well.
Okay. The tribunal ruled that the president is qualified as one-time head of state of this nation, and that anybody could that it is not adjudged that you must submit your certificates at that moment of contesting election or with INEC, but you can have affidavit, whatever submitted, and anybody who is challenging that could bring evidence against you, and that the president already duly have qualified, not only qualified, but how do they put it, that eminently qualified, because he's backed up by the WAEC, he's backed up by the military, that the certificates are with them, so already that is qualified. Anyway, you can actually call us back, because when I saw your missed call, I decided to redial you.
Yeah, let me cover. All right.
I think that will be all for now, because we'll take this place 1 minute and then we'll go. Your last note while I pick his call.
I think there is a ground for appeal.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that the Supreme Court will do justice to the gray areas, to the lacunas that we are left behind by the Court of Appeal.
All right. You have 30 seconds.
All right. Like I was saying,
yes.
Though the judgment was a robust judgment, and it's clear. It's clear. One thing that pushed the PDP out of this contest was that they had everything, but they don't have enough evidence to prove their fact.
Exactly.
That's just their problem. They believe on hearsay.
Okay, and in the court, they don't do hearsay. They want evidence.
No, they don't do hearsay. They want evidence. That's just the thing that teach PDP. If not, if they have come up with proof, evidence that look at this, the security harassment, all those things, it would have been better. They don't just come to the court and say, hearsay, you read it on this website, you read it on this website. No, the court will not listen to that. So, I think the judgment has been passed. The winner we have known. I think it's best for them now to congratulate so that the country can move forward. They should just be in the spirit of sportsmanship like Governor Wike, that congratulated Buhari, and say he will congratulate Buhari openly rather than visit him at night.
Exactly. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kenny.
All right.
That was a wonderful one. On the last note, you have heard Kenneth, and we have run out of time. And this is where we are going to stop. And of course, don't forget that Spectacle is still open to sponsorship and advertorial. We'll tell it to the world for you, your visions, your spectacular performances, your blueprints, and even your scorecards. The numbers displayed on the screen, you can reach us, and we'll do justice to whatever you want us to do for you. Thanks for watching. I'm still your host, Daniel Atai.